Right then, today's the day. It's valve clearance time, and the rest of the service. I'm probably not going to be getting the rest of the parts according to the delivery info until about between 4 and 5 o'clock this afternoon, which is a right pain in the arse. So it's going to be a bit tight. So I'm going to try and get as much as I can done. So when it does come, it's just a case of putting the new oil filter on, putting the oil in, putting the new spark plugs in, buttoning it all back up and checking we're all hunky-dory. Stuff on the 12,000 mile service, there's things like kind of general checks as well that you kind of should be doing as good practice anyway. And, you know, check your wheels, your tyres, your brake pads. I've redone the brake pads a few hundred miles ago. Brake fluid if it needs changing. Fork oil doesn't need doing, I don't think, until 24,000. But whatever, I'm not doing that this time. That's okay. I still might change the springs and the forks yet, so I can do all that together. The only thing I'm probably being a bit cheeky with is I'm not re-greasing the steering head bearings. Not today anyway. I might, but there's no notchiness. They're absolutely fine. No play, no notchiness, so they're kind of all right. I should really maybe clean them and repack them, but I don't know. I might do that later this week. It's a bit bad. I'm doing it wrong. I shouldn't be rushing stuff to get it done to go out on the bike tonight, but I kind of am. Yeah, valve clearances, that's what we'll be doing now. So I can do that whilst I'm waiting for the rest of the parts to come. Done a bit of pre-prep with it all. I'll show you. I'm trying to do this kind of slightly in a informative manner rather than just usual kind of cowboy fly by the seat of your pants go. But I'll show you what I've got ready just now, in readiness to do the valve cover. Does that make sense? Right. Anyway, look at this. Okay, so things you will need. What I've done is got a piece of paper here, and just for ease, I've looked up in the, you'll find it in the Haynes manual or on the net or whatever, but the clearance to keep the valves in spec, you've got your what your clearances are. As long as they're within these, you're okay. So you've got your intake and your exhaust, and I'll show you the difference between those in a minute. What I've also done is this is basically, this is, if you imagine looking down on the bike, so front, back, looking down, there's your valve cover. You're going to have like 4 cams and the shims underneath it. You know, you check those. Your exhaust is that side, because that's where the exhausts come out, and your intake is this side, because obviously that's where you've either got your fuel injectors or your carburetors. So that's bringing your fuel and air mix in, and that's expelling it out. So intake and exhaust, okay, and we're going to work on them right to left. So if you imagine the top of my valve cover there, so we're going to have intake 1, exhaust 1, intake 2, exhaust 2, intake 3, exhaust 3, intake 4, exhaust 4. There, that I will transfer my findings onto here. So just literally mirroring that, so I can write in there what they are, and just, it's all good. If I've got them down there, what the specs are. If I do need to change anything, you know, I've got everything down, and there's all the other shit that goes along with changing your shims. But the other thing I've written down to save a bit of time, I thought I might as well write out what the torque settings are for the valve cover bolts. 14 Newton meters. And for anyone who's interested, the sealing washers, which are, you've got 4 Torx bolts here, T30 Torx bolts, and then there's a sealing washer there, and then when the valve cover comes off, you've got a gasket here. You can reuse them. I had checked when I actually did my valve clearance checks, and it was 8,000 miles, and I'm kind of, you can reuse these if they're not damaged or distorted, so I'm going to hope that they're okay, because I haven't actually got any spares. But the sealing washers here are if you get part number T12603337, that's the upgraded part. Apparently earlier models had a different sealing washer part and they were prone to leaking. So if you are doing this and you are going to get new washers, or you're unsure or they're leaking, they're the ones to get. What else shall we say? Right, yes, things that I'll probably need. Right, I've got me T30 Torx to take them off with. I've got my torque wrench out ready with the T30 tip for putting them back on. A set of feeler gauges, obviously, and that's running from, I've got 15 to 30. They're the ones I'm going to be using, because the tolerances intake is 0.15 to 0.20 and the exhausts are 0.25 to 0.30, so that's what we're going to be using to check. And a rubber mallet there. Chances are, when I've undone the bolts, the cover's not just going to pop off, it's going to have a bit of suction to it, and it's going to, so just some gentle light tapping normally releases the cover. If you've got that, you don't want to be starting to lever anything out or prise it, because you're going to damage the faces, and that's just a world of hurt, so you don't want to do that. So just gentle tapping with a rubber mallet each side will release it. What else is good to point out? Obviously we haven't got the tank on. You do need to remove the tank for this. Now the only thing I'm going to have to do is I've relocated my horn here, so I'm going to move that out of the way, so I've got a bit of space under there to wiggle this out. If you've still got, because I haven't got the air injection in here anymore, obviously you're going to have the tubes, the big gubbins of the box here, that's all going to be something that's going to all have to move to get this out. I took my air injection off, one of the first things I did, so I've never had to try and wiggle it all out. I imagine it'd be a pain in the arse if you did with it all. So it's kind of handy to have that out of the way. You get easier access to the spark plugs, and jobs like this are easier. But if you've got all the gubbins, you're going to have to take that off as well. The other thing is, spark plugs are out. What I'm going to do is to turn, I'll show you in more detail when we get the cover off, but when we need to turn the cam lobes to the correct position so we can check the gaps. Take the spark plugs out. Now you can whip off this cover, and using a 10mm socket thing, you can turn it clockwise and rotate them, but I'm not going to do that because I haven't got a gasket for the cover if it needs it, and it's a bit of a pain in the ass. What I'm going to do is actually click it into a high gear, 5th gear, and turn the wheel so I get my cams in the right place, but I'll cover that in a sec. So first things first, I'll get the camera set up and then start taking the cover off. And again, absolutely, 40 Newton meters is nothing on these bad boys. That's you don't have to lean on them, and you don't want to lean on them. If you strip the threads in this, they go into the like the cam holder things, which are machined to fit. It's just be very, very careful when you're tightening these up. You don't want to, don't want to over tighten them, because it's the sort of job that if you over tighten a fastener here, it is a world of hurt. It's just a pain in the arse, and it's not a quick, easy fix. Of course, taking care when you do take this off not to drop anything down in the engine as well. Hopefully you're seeing this. I'm not sure about the angle of the dangle. Oh, I've got to get the horn out of the way as well. see that's quite well stuck on, so a little bit of a tap with a rubber mallet, obviously a rubber one, and no weight, you're just really just using the weight of the mallet, almost bouncing it off just to release the valve cover. It sometimes can take, last time it took me about 5 minutes of just gently tapping this. There we go. See the sound of it suddenly went ding ding dang. That's just it released. So now we just got to wiggle the bad boy out. There in it. Bugger out of the way. Go. Alright, so put your valve cover somewhere safe, out of the way, you're not going to knock it or get crap on it. Right then, so let's button you in. So this is what you'll see, and then those these egg-shaped things are the cam lobes that I was on about. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There you go. Right, so what we want to do is get these lobes. Hang on. So, come around this side. We want to get these lobes here. Let me just get a torch. See these lobes here. Now that's where they're pushed down. That's your bucket with your shim in it there. Okay. So we're gonna need to rotate these into the correct position, which is round again. So they're kind of pointing that way and that way. But I'll show you that. I'll pop the bike into high gear. Let's put this back down here again. Rotate our cams. I'm just turning the back wheel at the moment to get them in the right spot. Let's test these. So we'll go. So it's for the intake on this side. It's between 15 and 20. So let's try with let's go with the 15 first. And when you put the feeler gauge in, what you're waiting for, like that. That's a tiny. You're looking for a tiny bit of resistance. When that goes in, that's a 15, and there's not a massive amount there. So I'm gonna try an 18. yeah, see just at the end there, tiny bit of a tug. And yeah, so that's an 18 there. Let's try an 18 on this side. It's a bit looser that one. Let's try up to a 20. Yeah, it's a bit of resistance there, so that's 20 on that one. So let's write those down. Go over to the exhaust side, so these two bad boys here, and that's 25 to 30. So let's start off at the lowest, 25. Yeah. So quite now. 28. Right, so now I'm going to back to the back wheel and then spin them on this side because the cams are at different angles. So just need to spin this one round. Let's try this side. Okay. Right, it's back on this side now. So I've positioned the cams there. You see them. So let's go with a 15. Well, it's not just a tiny tug, I'd say that's more. It's probably more 16 on that one, but I think my next one's an 18. Let's try the 18. Oh no, I would say that's 18. Just that last bit as you're coming out, you can feel the little tug. That one. Yeah, they're both 18, so let's put those down. And then repeat again with the exhaust, so that's 25 to 30, so that's 25, where are you? Come on. These are a bit slimy because I keep oil on them anyway, just so they don't go rusty. There's a 25. Okay, that one's definitely 25. That one's, I feel a bit loose. Let's try, what's the next one up? 28. Let's try 28. Yeah, that's 28. So, thankfully, we are in spec. So that one was so at 12,000 miles, I've got away with it. We're alright, they're all in spec. So that's quite good news, really. So what I'll do now, I'm just going to get a clean rag, just clean off the surfaces, a little bit of the oil, and then reinstall the cam cover. seal a bit of an inspection to make sure it's alright, and that's absolutely fine. In fact, the plus point of, I don't know how many times you can get away with using this one, well, until it leaks I guess, but it's stuck on, so it's not going to be flying around when you're trying to line everything back up again. There we go. Okay, and then as with any kind of like, you know, when you're putting two surfaces that you don't want to get warped or you want them to be together, make sure you do your crisscross pattern when you put your bolts back in. So I'm just going to get them all in and just finger tight them, get them finger tight and seated. As I said, these, where those screws, oh I didn't show you did I? Shall I get it out? Yeah, let me just take this off again. Oh, what a hero. Yeah, if you look, hang on, well you can't look, you can see her over there. See where those Torx bolts go in. One there, one there, one there, and one there. Now all this is like all machined and it will all wear to the same bit. So it's not like if you strip the thread in that, it's not like you just buy another piece of that and stick it in, because it won't work. You kind of need a whole new top end, I think, I guess, unless you get someone and I don't know, that's a bit out of my realm, but I would just rather not mangle that. So just be a bit careful with that. So that's what I was on about before. Make sure your valve cover goes on the back way. There's two like big old nipples right here which sit over the oil cooler hose, so it goes on that way. Just another thing, just when you're taking stuff off, just give yourself a couple of seconds to have a double check that you're going back on the same way it all came off. Sometimes it doesn't look any different, but it is. Very carefully. These go in. My fingers are a bit oily here, so which is kind of good because I'm not getting an insane grip on the bolts, which means if they are cross-threaded or anything, then they should hopefully just slip out of my fingers and I won't be able to over-tighten them. That's the theory, anyway. They're going in beautifully. Actually, my fingers are super slippy, so I might just. I'm just going to seat them first, so they're not. There's no strain on those whatsoever at the moment. Just inspecting the old washers on the top, and they're looking all good. With fingers crossed, I'll give it all a good clean down after, and I'm hoping I've got away with not having to replace any of this gasket or those sealing washers, because they're not super cheap to replace. I think the big gasket there is about 18 quid, 16, 18 quid, and I forget how much the sealing washers are, but I mean it's not, you know, you start taking loads of stuff off and replacing gaskets and it starts mounting up. Okay, right, so they're all seated in. So the valve cover tops are Hello Pussycat 14, so I'm going to start off with a 10 on this. still shitting it a little bit. Okay, that's 10. So then across to the opposite side, you know, so you're going crisscross, so you're getting an equal amount of pressure going down. Is that making sense? I hope so. I'm not very good at this teaching, Lark. Well, not that I'm teaching, I mean, this is just how I do it. Again, my disclaimer. But you can see that it's checking your valve clearances. It's not. So it's always one of those jobs that people go, oh, I've got to do the valves, big one, big service. But I mean, if you've got to replace your shims, yeah, it's a bit of a pain, and you know, each bike's slightly different on the ease of doing that. But you know, it's not quite as, it's just a bit time consuming. Oh, one of the most important things actually, I should have mentioned this right at the very beginning. Obviously this is only done on a cold engine. It's got to be like stone cold, literally leave it overnight, you know, don't, you know, sort of warm your bike up, drain the oil and then go straight in and do it. You want this to be stone cold when you do these checks. Right, so that was a 10, so let's let's ramp it up to the 14, another 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, repeat the pattern. See that tiny bit there, see? So, I mean, 40 newton meters is absolutely not a lot. I mean, if you were doing, you know, you could so easily over tighten stuff like this. And there we go, that's it, that's your valve clearance checks. So I'm gonna just got to put this bracket back on, and that's kind of really it for now. Time is, I don't even know what time it is, it's still pretty early in the morning, so yeah, I'm not going to have the rest of the stuff here for a while, but I hope that was of some use to you. I'll probably film. I might. Well, it's a bit boring. You don't really want to see me changing the oil and just topping it up. But yeah, so that's the valve checks anyway. So that's not actually replacing your valves. But I hope that's been of some use. And yeah, I'll catch you on whatever I'm doing next. See you later.